So let's start with Marcus Rashford, who appears on pretty much all of the back pages in Ladyman. What do you make of the situation? Who is to blame for the fact that such a talented footballer is not getting anywhere near a football pitch?
Marcus Rashford is to blame. Things are always more nuanced than that and slightly more complex than that when you're dealing with footballers and human beings and emotions, etc. But you ask me the question, and there can be nobody else to blame other than Marcus. I'm afraid Marcus hasn't shown himself to be the right fit for Ruben Amorim. He didn't show himself to be the right fit for Erik ten Hag in the second half of Ten Hag's time at Manchester United. It did make me smile when I heard about this story today. It's a good line. It's a good line for the back pages. It's a good talking point. But I tell you what, if I was to look out my window now here in Manchester, I don't think I'd see many Manchester United fans hanging out flags to celebrate this news, because most of them, the ones that I talk to around where I live, the ones on my social media feeds, the ones who email me, they're sick and tired of Marcus Rashford. They either want to see Marcus playing for Manchester United, or they'd like to see him out of the football club. This constant back and forth. He's on the back pages an awful lot for a player who doesn't play very much at the moment. It's only about 3 or 4 weeks ago that we were talking about an interview he'd given to Henry Winter where he said that he wanted to leave Manchester United. He's not been training at a level that Amorim deems to be good enough. And you've got to trust the manager when he analyses his players. But now he tells us at least through a PR briefing, that he's training extra hard to get back in the team and he wants to stay. It's all a bit sad, really. It's all a bit unseemly. And I tell you what, I don't know who Marcus is getting his PR advice from right now. It seems to change from month to month and year to year. But if I was advising Marcus right now, it'd be very, very simple. You hand him a pair of football boots and you say, put those on, Marcus, and go and train as hard as you can with your teammates, and then go home and eat right and sleep well and come back again tomorrow and put your boots back on and do it again, and the next day and the next day and the next day. And if you keep doing that, you'll get back into the Manchester United team, because this is a Manchester United team that is not exactly brimming over with talented footballers. And while people like young Amad Diallo is scoring a hat-trick to get his team out of the car against Southampton, and a young player like Joshua Zirkzee, who's really struggled at United, is scoring a penalty to get them through a cup tie at the Emirates against Arsenal. What's Marcus been doing? He's been no use to them whatsoever. So he should look at those players and think, right, enough of this, enough of these PR briefings, enough of words, enough of talk, to get my boots on and play. And let's show people that I really want to play for Manchester United, instead of telling them 1 week that I don't, and then 3 weeks later telling them that actually I've changed my mind and I do.
Is the main headline on the back of the Sun as well. Sam Dean, unseemly was Ian's word. Are you happy with that word?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I agree with Ian about this is in Rashford's power to a large degree, but I also can't imagine that the timing of these stories and the sort of coordinated release of it will do him much good, to be honest. Remember, this comes a day after another embarrassing home defeat, this time against Brighton, and a day after Amorim said it's maybe the worst team in the history of Manchester United. And then 24 hours later, you've got Marcus Rashford indirectly putting his hand up and reminding the world, well, I'm still here and I'm being excluded. It feels, while the message is very much a case of Rashford wanting to fight for the cause, the timing of it feels more like a reminder that he's being dropped and the team's doing badly. It feels perhaps more self-serving than you might think based on just reading the intros and the words of the news themselves. I think the issue here is clearly a wider one than just Rashford, though. And I think Amorim's spoken about wanting to build a different culture at Manchester United and to change the way things are done there. And clearly he feels like he can't back down in this situation, and understandably so. But equally, I think anyone who's watched football over the past 10 years and seen what Marcus Rashford can do would look at Man United's struggles as a team against Brighton, for example, even against Southampton, the game they won, but in which they struggled quite badly.
Yeah.
And you can't help but think that Rashford would help that team play better. I mean, he of course he's good enough to play for them. There's clearly deeper issues going on there still, but I can't imagine this particular news story will help Rashford's cause too much, to be honest.
And he's not going to go anywhere, and the Times make this point. Their main story on their back page in Ladyman, the wages that he seems to want, they're quoting £325,000 a week. No one's going to be able to afford that. United, if he does go on loan, are going to have to pay most of that.
Yeah, I was talking to somebody at United about this last week, actually, just before the game at Arsenal, and they were saying exactly that if it were to be a loan, which you would think would be more likely, then United would have to supplement a huge portion of those wages. But if Amorim, the coach, believes that having Rashford around, even if he's not playing, is unhelpful for atmosphere, unhelpful for culture, to echo what Sam said a minute ago, then that is probably quite literally a price that United would probably be willing to pay, because at the moment United are absolutely in the cart, and what they can't afford is to have people around the place who are not on the page. Erik ten Hag suffered that with a number of players. Some of those have gone now. He suffered that with Marcus for a while, and if Amorim thinks that he's suffering that way, then even if they've got to pay a chunk of those wages to get him to Dortmund or somewhere like that, or to get him to Italy, if that's for the good of the group and for the good of the football club, as crazy as that sounds, given that Marcus remains a talented lad, then that's probably the path to take.
Sam, you made the point that there is a wider issue here, that it is Manchester United's overall form that's the bigger problem. Jeremy Cross in the Mirror with a story headline, Fergie time. Amorim, as he puts it, turning to Fergie. Fergie, we're not told anything much more than that he says stay positive, but should a man who's been out of the game, the front line for so long, be having any influence at all, with the greatest possible respect to the great Sir Alex?
Well, I think if you're Ruben Amorim, I think of all the people you might want to hear a positive, encouraging word from, I think Sir Alex Ferguson would rank pretty highly on that list. Whether that's the same as giving him tactical guidance, for example, or encouraging him to alter his 3-4-3 formation, I don't know. But a positive arm around the shoulder and a word of encouragement and a little whisper in the ear that people are still behind him and backing him, I'm sure will go quite a long way, given Ferguson's status in the game and his achievements, obviously. So it can't hurt. You wouldn't have thought, but equally, I would be interested to know just how far that advice goes in terms of the actual man management and the tactics and the actual job that Amorim has on his hands. Because, as we know, obviously Sir Alex Ferguson's been out of the game for a long time now, and I can't imagine he's particularly sort of on top of the minutiae and the small details involved with United. So tricky one, but it can't hurt to get encouragement from someone like him.
Is it a good look, Ian?
I'd be interested to know whether Sir Alex gave him that advice to stay positive before or after he chose to tell the world that he was in charge of the worst Manchester United team anybody had ever seen. Because not an awful lot of positivity there. It does make me smile or grimace a little bit, the way that Amorim's own messaging has changed in the 70-odd days that he's been at United. I was at his introductory press conference when he sat there at Carrington in a room that Fergie himself used to sit in and talk to us. And Amorim said, I know that you lot, i.e. the media, don't believe in these players, but I do, and I'll show you that they are worthy. And here we are, only just taking our Christmas decorations down, some of us, and Amorim seems to have lost that faith himself. So I think it's that messaging that would worry me more if I was knocking about Manchester United or if I was a Manchester United fan, rather than whether the greatest manager the club has ever had has had a word in Amorim's ear or not. And nice story, largely irrelevant to the way that United's season goes from this point on, I would say.
Hello, Reds. Today, we're discussing one of the biggest stories surrounding Manchester United. A top player's battle to win back his place under Ruben Amorim. Reports suggest he's putting in extra effort in training to show he's ready to fight for his future. But some fans are questioning whether it's too little, too late. After all, the team is struggling for consistency, and everyone needs to step up to make a difference. Adding to the complexity are the reported wage demands, which make a potential loan move or transfer a challenge. Amorim is focused on building a new culture at United, and it seems he's unwilling to compromise on discipline or effort. If this player wants to stay, he'll need to prove that he's fully committed to the cause. With other young talents seizing their moments, the pressure is truly on. The bigger picture here is clear. Manchester United are in transition under Amorim, and every decision matters. Can this player rise to the challenge and become part of the rebuild? Or is his time at Old Trafford running out? Share your thoughts, Reds. And stay tuned for more updates on everything happening at our beloved club. Glory, glory, Man United!